Hello, students. Hello. So we are finishing or continuing your book on Christopher Columbus, and we have just actually finished this in class, the lesson just a few minutes ago. And so I want to go ahead and read so it'll be fresh in my memory. So Columbus has just gotten back to Spain. He has now, if you remember, if you turn to page 46 in your book, turn to page 46, we drew this in our narration notebooks. We drew the parrot. We drew the little gold bracelets and stuff like that. So if you, I'm sorry, all of them, just like all of them. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. um, so if you turn to page 46, I'll give you a minute to turn there. Page 46, and again, this is stuff that Columbus brought back from what he thinks is still Japan. He brought back from the Indies or whatever to Spain. So let's see what happens. Remember, they got to Portugal, and everybody was pretty. Nobody was welcoming them. They wanted to arrest them because they were Spaniards. They didn't like Spaniards. So, or his not Columbus, but the fellow people on his ship. So now they have gotten to Spain. And if you remember, who did we draw? Who was the king and queen that we drew? King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. So remember, if there you can see them, I'll give you a little hint. They're right. Hold on. They're right there on this next page. And let's see what kind of welcome they give them. The news spread quickly. Remember the fellow who was going to the Indies? Well, he found them, and now he was home. Did he really find them? No, he didn't. It was not the Asia, it was North America, but they don't know that still. All across Spain, people poured out to see Columbus and his strange procession making their way to the court at Barcelona. Columbus, richly dressed and ornamented, led the parade on horseback. He was followed by 6 natives, Indians they were called now. And why were they called Indians? Because he thought they were in the Indies. Wearing aprons, gold nose plugs, beads, and bracelets. Then came men carrying treasures from the Indies. Cages of parrots that remember we drew in class, baskets of curiosities like plants and shells, native darts, thread, and most important, samples of gold. Columbus's big day of triumph came when he reached the court. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, they didn't just sit still on their thrones the way they usually did when people called. Oh, no, indeed. The king and queen stood to greet their admiral. Then they invited him to sit beside him while he told his story. All the jokers who had laughed at Columbus had to show him respect now. No matter how big he talked, for 6 weeks, Columbus remained at court, basking in glory. When the king went for a ride, he invited Columbus to come along and ride at his side. Before Columbus ate, a taster tasted the food from each of his dishes to make sure it wasn't poisoned, just as if he were a member of the royal family. So he is really living in high regards for being a common man, but now it's like he's treated like royalty. He was given his own company of footmen to open doors for him and to serve him at the table. The queen was full of compliments. Columbus had shown more wisdom, she said, than could ever be expected of a mortal being, and Columbus had to agree. What he'd done, he'd admitted, was a miracle. His whole life had been a series of miracles, and he had faith that the miracles would go on. After all, he had chosen to do what he was doing. Perhaps because of his faith, he began to sign his name in a secret code that took the form of a pyramid. So if you look here, there's the code. Looks like it's a pyramid. SAS, XMY, and XPOFERENS. And we're about to see what that means. No one has ever known what the letters mean except for the last line. Only the last line, they don't know what the first 3 mean. The last line is Greek and Latin, and it's in the form of Christopher, or Christ-bearing. It was clear, however, that this mysterious signature had not only had a religious meaning for him, but also spelled success. He could not know that he was then at the peak of his success. Nothing would ever be as good as it was for him again. So this moment of glory where he's in the queen's in the king's palace and doing all the things, this is a peak. It means like it's going to go downhill, and we're going to see throughout the rest of his life how it did. But for now, I wanted you to think about his name. So Christopher Columbus. And what you're going to do in your narration notebook, and I'm going to attach a little video to try to help you a little bit with the lettering. We're going to spell that name out, Christopher Columbus. And it means, Christopher means Christ bearing. And in Latin, you can also put that, you can include this XPO. FERE in this. It means, again, if we're talking about Latin or Greek, that's what Christopher, that's how to say Christopher in that. His first name was Christopher. We say Columbus a lot, but his first name was Christopher. But you're going to do like a glorified looking, not just write Christopher, you're going to do it special letters. So we can really just think about that name. Think about how, he was chosen. He wasn't perfect. He had a lot of faults, but he also really did follow the will of God. I feel like in because of him and his courage. So you're also going to write a few. You can get your mom and dad to help if you need to, but a few things about him. I think about courage, like I would call him courageous, brave. I would call him smart, all the things. So just write a few things to describe him. This will be your presentation next week, and I look forward to seeing them. All right, and then we will continue on with Columbus next week. All right, bye.